Welcome to Educate Her Collective. I am Jen Mizaki of the Co-Teaching Connection, here with my friends Melissa and Allison, and it's February. So we thought this would be a great time to talk about some relationship resets. How can you look at the relationships that you have with your students, your colleagues, your parents that you deal with, and what kind of advice can we give you on some things that we do? So, from the perspective of co teaching and trying to get along and working with your co teachers or any coworker, because we spend so much time with our coworkers, I think the best thing you could try and do are professional compliments. How often have you given a colleague a true professional compliment? Think about it. What could you say to them that would just brighten their day? So either they had a bad day yesterday or they're having a bad day coming up, but they'll remember what you said. I walked into school the other morning and one of my colleagues said, "Hey, Jen, so I wasn't like stalking you, but I ended up staying in the classroom next to you for a little longer than normal. I'm not usually in there." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Is everything all right?" She's like, "I just wanted to say your lesson was amazing. The way you had them walk in, the way you transitioned from one activity to the next." And she just went on and on. And my heart just got so full. So I know personally, and I'm sure everybody can relate, that when you give somebody a compliment, a true compliment, they're really going to remember it. So I'm sure, ladies, you've probably had the same thing happen. And those are the true compliments that you will remember. It's nice if somebody says, "Oh, you look great in blue," or "That's a beautiful sweater." Those are wonderful. I sometimes will remember those as I'm going through my closet and I want to wear something nice for the day. But those true professional compliments about what we put our heart and soul into every day are like the number one. So give
Mm.
it a try. Try and compliment your colleagues and make those connections, because that's what it's all about, making the connections. My second thing that I would say to give a go is doing stuff outside of work. Our building this year is trying once a month to do outside of work activities, not just going to the bar for happy hour on a Friday, but actually do activities. Today I'm going to a charcuterie board class so I can learn how to make a charcuterie board with colleagues from work. And it's not people that I talk to all the time. It's just everybody who is interested in that. So really try and do that.
Fun.
Ladies, do you do any of that at your schools?
Mhm. Yeah, our school does. We do usually like once every few months. There's something like we went to Bury the Hatchet one year, or yeah, one year that
Nice.
was really really fun. Another school that I used to work at, they do a 4 times a year book club at
Mm.
different people's houses. So yeah, so it's fun. I love that idea. Charcuterie board, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll have to send you a picture.
definitely. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah. So why don't we pass it off? I'm going to pass it over to Allison. She's going to talk about how to reset those relationships with the parents.
Yeah. So one thing, as you were talking, Jen, that came to mind was a quote from Maya Angelou. People may not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Right. So I always feel like what you were just referencing with someone really digging into the great things that you were doing professionally. I mean, those are not the compliments that we get a lot of the time.
Mm-mm.
And I think especially now here in New Jersey, it is bitterly cold and has been for weeks now. Um, Kids are in the classrooms, not able to go outside for recess. Everyone's going a little stir crazy. Prior to jumping on this, we were talking about how there have been more meltdowns than usual, probably because people are feeling kind of caged in the school building. So I do think it's a great time for teachers to reach back out to parents. Conferences were back in November, right? So you probably set some goals for yourself, for the child. Maybe it's time to touch base with the parent again, just to say, hey, I know we talked about doing some reading at home, or we talked about whatever it might be, fact fluency, doing that at home. What's going on, and any updates that you have, because I know that that's a really difficult and tall order, especially if you're in a high school setting, right? But if you're able to even get to a couple of parents a day and just say, I was thinking about our conference back in November. Now it's February. Just wanted to do a status check. How are things going? Anything you need from me? Because I think that just letting the parent know that you're thinking about them and their child is so important. And it just helps to build that relationship and keep that strong, because then when you have other issues going on throughout the rest of the school year, everyone feels like they're on the same page in the lines of
And you're
communication.
real partnership then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And Allison, that makes me think of a story when I taught fourth grade. I knew I was getting this little guy, and the mom would refuse to work with the school, and he would have explosive tantrums. And I figured, all right, let's see what happens. And first day of school, he had trouble cutting something, and he went to lift his desk and throw it. And so I went to my principal and said, all right, you said the mother won't want to hear from me, but I have to call her, right? He said, yeah, you have to call her. But my mom is a retired teacher and taught me always start with a compliment and then ask the parents to help you. So when you word things like that, sometimes it changes. So I called her and I said, I cannot believe that your little guy is reading the fourth Harry Potter book, which was probably close to 1,000 pages, and understanding it and was talking with me about it. And I finally have someone to talk to about Harry Potter besides my husband. Um, so he was just such a neat kid. And I said, but he got really frustrated. He went to throw a desk. So I always assume that parents see this behavior at home. So I start with, when you see this at home, how do you handle it? And if they don't, then I say, well, that makes sense because you only have him at home and I have 25. But when someone gets that angry, it's most likely going to be in all facets of their life. And she said, I don't know what to do because he does throw things at home. And we had the loveliest conversation and we came up with a plan. And that year, she started coming in and doing class parties. And we would
Nice.
talk. Yeah, this was the first time they had seen her in school. And so I made sure every time I spoke with her, I started with something so amazing because this kid really was amazing. And I knew that he needed more than I could give him. He really needed a small group. He probably needed a one-on-one aid, but I couldn't make that happen. And when mom and I talked a lot, she requested he be studied, and he did qualify for services going from fourth to fifth grade, where he'd be moving on to middle school because we were so concerned he'd be moving to lockers and all these things. And it was such a big change. And I think when you make those relationships with the parents and you are a real partnership, it changes how the child does in school. Because it's so funny, we teachers ask parents to help us, but we're also willing to help the parents. Parents have reached out to me and said, I can't get him to do this at home. So then I talk to them in school, and sometimes we have behavior plans that work for both home and school. Have you done that too, Jen, with your classes?
And you know what? It works great because then it's like you're reinforcing it. It's kind of like, it makes me think of, it takes a village to
Yes.
raise
It
everybody,
takes a
and it
village. Right.
does. And because they have a different relationship with you than their parents, but they don't want to disappoint either side. So when both
Right.
sides are like, wow, they really do talk to each other, it builds such a great relationship.
It really does. It's really important. Hmm.
Absolutely. And I also feel like when parents know that they're a part of the team,
Hmm.
it really strengthens everyone's ability to work together, right? Because it's intimidating. Parents are sending their children to a place for 6, 7 hours a day that they have no involvement in. So if we can provide those experiences for parents to understand a little bit more about what's going on for their child during the day, or even, like you were saying, Melissa, that parent came in and was able to participate. It sounds like just even helping out in the classroom. I mean, what a beautiful way to engage the family and let them know that, everything is okay. It's just maybe we'll come across some bumps.
And this is how we can tweak them together. It's not you against me, it's a team. And I also include the child in the team. I always invite the child to conferences so that we can work together.
It's nice because she came in because you gave her that
Yes,
opportunity. You gave her that comfort level because that's what it's about. Do you have that comfort level with somebody? If somebody intimidates you or you're afraid of them, you're not going to voice your opinions and come in and help. You're going to kind of stay back and say, okay, maybe it's not my place. So it's wonderful that you opened up that communication bridge. Now, in
Thank you.
elementary school, I feel like there is a lot more parent communication. And I think it lends itself to the fact that the regular classroom teacher has a smaller load. Whereas a
absolutely.
middle school or high school teacher, it is a little bit harder because there's just so many. So knowing this and knowing how important these relationships are, I've kind of, even as a middle school teacher, started just sending out almost just a mass email like, this is what we're doing in math class right now. Just because I know
Mhm.
as a middle school teacher and parent that they don't tell you what's going on. Your child doesn't come home saying, oh, this is what I'm learning about in math class. So I like to give that to the
Especially if you
parents
have
so
a boy.
yes, and I have 2 of them.
I know.
So it's nice. I kind of send just a mass email to the parents, just very general, and always at the end say, if you'd like to talk about your child, please reach back out and we can arrange something. So you're always keeping that connection, that bridge open.
And one of the things I did when I taught seventh grade and had, 250 kids is the first week of school, I would reach out to, those kids' parents. And if you can do 5 a week, just 5 a week, and just give yourself a script that you can copy and paste for kids when you're not sure what to say, then when you follow up, like what you said, Allison, you could say, I'm still seeing that bright smile. I'm just concerned about.
Hmm. Yeah, and actually, something else that you could do, because if you're doing 5 a week, right, that comes down to about one a day. And what I do a lot is schedule. I'll write emails on the weekends and schedule them to send throughout the week. So
There
then
you
I don't
go.
have to really do it during the week if I don't want to, right? So you could do something like that if your district has that available. We use Gmail, so that's why it
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 works.
it really really helps. Takes pressure off.
Especially with someone like you that has a huge caseload, right?
Yeah, and then
It
there's
would be comparable to a high school or middle school teacher.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great.
Well, ladies, this was wonderful. We hope that we helped you have a few relationship reset ideas. So, hopefully, the big takeaways is, at least if you can try, aim for 5 sort of contacts a week. Maybe do the schedule send, get on the computer today, make your script and send them out, and really try and give somebody a professional compliment when you
Love
go
that.
back to work. Not just beautiful sweater, but really give out that professional compliment. So we thank you for joining us. Next month, we will be talking about March Madness and March Mayhem in the classroom and all things crazy about March. So thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks.